My guest today is someone whose words have guided millions of people on their own inner journeys. Ulrich Schaffer is a poet, photographer, and author of more than 200 books, translated into 10 languages and read by millions around the world. Born in Germany and raised in the wilderness of northern Canada, Ulrich has spent a lifetime exploring the landscapes of both nature and the human soul. His writing invites you to slow down, to notice the sacred hidden within ordinary moments, and to live with greater awareness, compassion, and hope. His life has been shaped by profound love and profound loss. For 5 years, he cared for his wife, Waltraud, at home as she lived with dementia, an experience he later shared with remarkable honesty in his moving book, With You, Without You. Today he continues to write from his home on the coast of British Columbia, where sea, forest, silence, and memory continue to nourish his work. Throughout this conversation, we'll explore what it means to live consciously, to embrace uncertainty, to age with grace, and to discover that even our deepest losses can become unexpected teachers. Ulrich, it's such a pleasure to welcome you to Living to Be.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Ulrich, many people today seem to spend their lives chasing to become someone else. Your writing seems to invite the reader to become who they really are. Why is it so difficult for people today to slow down and to truly notice life?
I think it is related to the fact that many people want to live according to the norms, according to what is successful, according to what other people expect of them. And so they take very little care to notice what they want and how they want to live. They are trying to please someone else. One of my more successful books is called The Book of Rights, and it came out of that observation that people are. Let me go back. We are born with all kinds of rights, and then as we are small already, when we are 2 and 3, we give up certain rights just to be loved, to be cared for, to be noticed. And so slowly we give up all the rights that we naturally have, the right to determine how to use our time, the right to choose our friends, the right to love ourselves, and many other rights like that we give up. And in the end, many people, it seems, don't even know who they are and how they want to live. And that's why I wrote the Book of Rights, to put people in charge of their life again.
So it's a lot about, if I understand you correctly, loving yourself and at the same time setting boundaries.
Yes. I sometimes find if people don't know how they want to live, many people know how they don't want to live. And that is a good start. You know, if your life is run by something that you are not happy with, or run by a person or an idea or a job or many other things, then at least begin there and say, I will change that. I will quit. I will deny that I am run by other things. And then slowly you will recover what you want to do and how you want to live.
And that, I believe, is also a lot about finding solitude and finding reconnection with the bigger universe, spending time in nature. And in your books, nature is almost like another character. What has the wilderness taught you about the universe, about God, life, and yourself?
That's a big question, but I can try. I grew up in just south of the Alaskan Panhandle, and the town I grew up in did not even have a road to it. And so it was completely surrounded by wilderness, and I experienced a connectedness with the world around me. As a teenager, not so much with people, although that was also there, but it was the connection to the wilderness, and I realized that I am part of that, and it is part of me. I am in it, and it is in me. And I had the feeling then, more intuitively than rationally explaining it to myself, I had the feeling then that that will keep me sane, that will keep me well, that will stand in good stead with me to be connected to nature. And I have a feeling now that many people suffer a kind of lostness and unconnectedness and loneliness as well, because there's no connection to nature anymore. It, of course, was also to me the beginnings of my quest, I guess I could call it, to understand what my place is in the world, and that there is maybe something bigger than what I can conceive of, and bigger than I can understand. And so I opened myself to a kind of spirituality. It was, as a teenager, it was still to some extent governed by my attendance in church, but that slowly changed and became more and more a spirituality of connectedness with the world.
What in your mind then is the difference between religion and experiential spirituality as you just described?
Yes, uh, I have to say, I have to be open here for a minute, quite open. I grew up in a relatively narrow religious setting until at 26 I was excommunicated because I asked too many questions. I had all kinds of questions, and I was really a nice boy. I was not a rebel, but I had a whole bunch of questions. And to pursue those questions and not to find immediate answers, but to realize that with each answer, another question opened up, another realm opened up. That became my way of life, and that did not work together with religion, because religion, and I don't even want to put religion down unless it gets very narrow and destructive, but religion is so much governed by rules and laws and teachings and dogma. And I have a feeling spirituality and the spiritual pursuit is something very individual. And so you will have a different spirituality than I will. I talked about this. I was married for 56 years, and we talked about it endlessly, my wife and I. And we were very different, even though we loved each other and lived together in the same house for over 50 years. We had a different sense of spirituality. And it proved to me, in a sense, that it is a very unique thing. And I try to encourage people to look inside and to figure out what and how they want to live, to have an image of God if they have an image of God that is very personal and not governed by rules and regulations. That's a very, very simple answer.
I have the impression that institutional religion has lost a lot of credibility in view of all these scandals, financial, sexual abuse and whatever. But somehow I think we've thrown out the child with the bathwater, because religion offers an anchor for many people. It offers community. At the same time, and I can relate because I grew up in a very dogmatic religious environment, it creates such a lot of shame and there's such a lot of hypocrisy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to go on my own journey of finding my own spirituality outside of the church.
Mm-hmm.
That was my way of finding it. And I found it on pilgrimage paths, talking about this loneliness epidemic that we're seeing everywhere. I think that spiritual connection has somehow gotten lost.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I think the loneliness is not only a psychological thing, but it is, now we know that it is a physical thing as well. Loneliness reduces your immunity, for example, and so you become subject to illnesses more easily and other things connected with that. So it is not something that you can dismiss and say, well, yeah, maybe it's for some lonely people somewhere, somehow. I mean, it's interesting that in Britain, they have a ministry for loneliness. I don't know if you knew that, but a ministry for loneliness, because it is important to deal with it, because it increases the cost for health for a whole country with people that are lonely, because they get ill faster and all kinds of things that are negative about it. And so I agree with you that I think it is religion. If it's a real community, has much to offer. But as soon as it becomes judgmental for its members, and you have to sort of let go of your rationality and your spirituality and your very personal way of seeing the world, as soon as you have to let go to belong, then it becomes, to me, very doubtful.
Yeah. And even abusive, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I mean, I went through that. The church I was in, it took them a whole year. These 12 men in dark suits that had to decide whether I could belong to this church. And my wife was, without being asked, she was excommunicated as well. And I realized this is not conducive to personal growth, and it certainly, what I experienced it as not loving and caring for someone.
Yeah.
But maybe I could throw that in. And then I started I had written much before, but I started writing more spiritual kinds of books. And I found a big readership very quickly, because there were so many people who had experienced the exact same thing, their alienation from the church in which they grew up. And so my books they just ate them up, because here was somebody who had not given up spirituality, but had given up a very narrow dogmatic approach to life. And that difference was very important to many people, and those became my readers. And in the meantime, I have all kinds of readers, but those, even now, they are sort of the basis still, right? Looking for a spirituality that is not narrow. Yeah.
I think also that this question never leaves you. Where do I come from and where am I going in life?
Yeah.
It's a cardinal question that everyone at some point asks himself or herself in life.
Yeah.
Even if you give up religion, the question remains.
I think it's a question that every culture, from the most primitive, which I put like this, most primitive to the most sophisticated, has asked that question, and the people in it have asked that question. It moves us. It's very deep in us, right? That, by the way, is also going back to where we started our conversation. That is also, I find, a very unfortunate loss in our culture. And I'm talking about Western culture now more than anything else, that the questions about where do I come from, where do I go, what is the meaning of life, don't seem to be that important. We are so caught up in our capitalistic adventure, in being somebody, in whatever it is, that that important question is not asked enough.
The illusion also in our world today that external gratification makes you happy.
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
it obviously doesn't if you look
no,
at the statistics for depression and
yeah.
mental illness. But coming back to your own life, you cared for your wife for many years who suffered from dementia. How did that change your outlook on spirituality and life?
The first thing I realized was our whole relationship was a lot about love. But what I realized that I had a lot to learn yet. Even though I was already in my 70s when her dementia was diagnosed, I realized that I was not as loving as I thought I would be. Everybody around me thought I was just perfect and it was wonderful, but I experienced myself deep inside of myself that I needed to grow in love. And that became very important and very crucial. Her dementia was a Lewy body dementia, and just yesterday, I think somebody told me it was an unusual way in which she lived her dementia. And I think it had to do with how I approached it and how we approached it together. It was the entry, dementia was just not just craziness, but it was the entry into another dimension. And we dealt with it like that. It's maybe just one quote by her. I think it was 3 days before she died, she said to me suddenly, "It is so beautiful to live, to experience one's freedom in the middle of the loss of one's freedom." You know, an amazing philosophical statement from somebody who had dementia and who even 3 years before sometimes wouldn't recognize me anymore and didn't know who I was and so on. These bright moments happened over and over again. I put them into the book too that I wrote, and it showed me that there's a different way of looking at that even, and that love it's at the center of my life, has been for many, many years, that it can be developed and it can grow, it can deepen. And that is what I experienced most, that it was growing and deepening. And where I thought I might have been already, I was not quite there. I needed to work on that. That was the most, and it's in the book too. I didn't hide it. Yeah.
It sounds very cliched that our deepest wounds often become our greatest teachers, and you just talking about it just shows me how much that episode certainly influenced your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, it did.
What did
I find dementia to be so unique generally too. So I would suggest don't just just don't abandon the person. Don't just leave the person. Even challenge the person in everyday things, in thinking. Talk. Spend time with the person. Don't, that people have the diagnosis dementia, and then sort of the shutters come down. People say, okay, that's it. Now we have to survive this. But it is, it, I have the put it in a slightly bigger context. I believe that all external happenings are basically there for us to grow in our inner personhood, in our personality. And so that is a huge challenge. Dementia, to live with a person with dementia or to take care of a person is a huge challenge because it questions everything about yourself and everything you've done and everything you're doing. But if you treat it like this is a challenge to grow and to grow beyond where you are, then it becomes very important. And I hope that people can try to do that, to look at themselves as well as the person with dementia and say, how am I growing? Am I growing through this? Or am I just kind of passing the time?
Yeah.
My wife was 6 years older. So the irony was my father died with dementia and two of my uncles. So I always thought I am the one that most likely will get this. And so it was a complete surprise when my wife got it. She was 79, I think, when she was diagnosed. Yes, 79. Aging, as the saying goes, aging is not for sissies. I take aging as a huge challenge to grow. I don't have to please anybody anymore. I don't have to be successful. I don't have to do certain things. I don't have to, be athletic anymore. I used to be into sports as a young man. I loved track and field, but I don't have to do any of those things. I can now totally focus on growing up, not only growing old, but growing up and developing a depth inside of me, a kind of wholeness, a connectedness. And I have a feeling it works. It's happening. I do a seminar once a month. I've done maybe 55 seminars over the last 5 years. And and there's about 40 to 50 people that come to that from all over the world. And I can not only stay within myself, but I can share the aging thing. And I just find it beautiful. Of course, there are the other sides that some things don't work as well anymore, and so on. I am turning 84 soon, and so I know about those sides. But I love the idea that aging gives me a new way of living, and it is, I'm trying to do what I have done all my life, but it seems to have more depth to it. Focus more on love. It's also a cliche, I realize, but focus more on love. My whole life was focused on living consciously. That was the highest, the highest goal. Lately, I have been replacing that Not totally, because it's still important to me, but I realize now that there is something higher than living consciously, and that is living lovingly in the moment, right now, as you and I are talking. And I am going out to you as the person talking to me. I'm going out to the people who will see this broadcast. And I would like that love to show. I would like it to come from the inside and go out to people and forget everything else. That is all secondary. About the external things and how we live those. They come second. The first is to truly be loving and kind.
Mm. That's really interesting, because I had on this show Sheena Duncan, who worked in a hospice, working with thousands of patients and guiding them into the other direction. And she said exactly the same thing. She said this is what people realize in their dying moments. It's all about love.
It's the caption on my website, ulrichschaffer.net. It says, in the end, it's all about love. That's on the first page. In the end, it's all about love. And when you think about it, it's really true how we seek and want to be loved all of our life. It comes out in many different ways. It might come out in wanting to be important, wanting to be beautiful, wanting to be intelligent, and all of those things. But behind all of those is always the wish to matter and to be counted and to be loved, ultimately to be loved. And all the other things, you can be very intelligent, very successful, and yet experience an emptiness because you're not being loved. People are not seeing you like that, right? Yeah.
That's the message in your latest book.
The message, this is sort of the book I am passing on. I think it has most of my ideas in it. The Handbook of the Courageous. It takes courage to live like that. And it's 300 pages, 140 different texts. Most of them are just a page or two long in different ways. It's also full of graphics. The meaning of life is being alive. That's it, of being truly alive. The other book that is this one, The Handbook of the Courageous. That was that. This is the Book of Rights, is to regain your life by going inside and saying, how do I want to live? Or this one. This one has a fun cover, Be You. And then loving who you are. You don't have to change to love who you are. We all live with the notion, if I could be a little more this, a little more that, a little more this, then people will love me. But you are okay, and I am okay the way we are. If we don't like how we are, we can change. But basically, we're okay right now. Especially somebody who is watching a show like this is already on the road to a deeper life.
I've had dogs nearly all my life, and my Dalmatian died last year. She was 15 years old, and she was a great teacher, because she showed me every day this unconditional love.
Yeah.
A dog just loves without judgment.
Yes.
Without condition.
It's hard to find a person like that. Yeah.
Ulrich, if someone listening today feels overwhelmed, stressed out by the pace of life and disconnected, what small practice would you invite them to begin with today?
I ask that every now and then, and I say I'm totally in favor of just sitting, nothing else.
Just being.
Just being with yourself. I get up most mornings and I go down into my study. I live really beautifully. I'm living right on the ocean. My house is almost hanging over the ocean, the Pacific Ocean. It's lovely. So not everybody has um, that possibility. But I go down to my study and I just sit down. I usually have a pen. These are my favorite pens. When I have that in my hand, I can think better. It's amazing. And it starts to write almost by itself. But I sit down very silently and just go inside myself and watch what comes up. It could be just a word, could be a sentence, it could be an idea, and I just let it be and I let it come forth, let it develop and let it take care of me. And it might have a question for me. It might have uh, an answer of a sort. And often I write things down because I find that when I write things down, I, it's not just a thought that passes through my head, but which we apparently have 40,000 thoughts a day, each of us, which is, in other words, they take a few seconds and they're gone. When I have a pen in my hand, I notice if I write down something, then it wants to be followed up with another thought. It wants to be pursued. And so I start writing. And I'm amazed often what comes on the page. It's not something that I could have figured out ahead of time. It's not something that I understood. And so that is how my books develop. I write sometimes 5, 6, 7 things a day, and they become texts for books, or they become just something private for me. But it's that silence, you know, the unengaged life. We're always engaged, right? I have to go there, I have to do that phone call, this letter, that mail has to be answered, and on and on. And so there is no time to meet myself, and it doesn't have to be an hour or 2 hours. It's good if you have that time, but it can be only a few minutes. But I think it's important that we have that time and go inwardly and discover how we want to live and how we want to do what we want to do, and open ourselves to perhaps to other views of the world. We live so much inside our view. Even if we have a big view, it's still inside of us. And just to let our guard down and to say, how does someone else living somewhere else in the world with different challenges? How does somebody in Iran live? Apropos all of this stuff going on with the attack on Iran by Trump. How does somebody like Trump live? What is that all about? How does my partner live? How do my children live? What can I learn to understand from their life? And on, and you can already see that it's endless, right? And I think it's important to get out of our mindset and open ourselves for a different mindset. I think it's the beginning of love as well.
Yeah. Especially in our age where it's often sloganeering, it's judgmental, it's become very simplistic in a way. The ability to have a nuanced conversation seems to be getting lost.
Yes, we are in a very confrontative mood. And so and if I meet somebody who's different, it becomes a confrontation, and then we both dig in, and ultimately no communication, no love happens. It's just an exchange. It's a warfare, basically. Many interactions are substitutes for warfare, and nothing grows on that. It doesn't lead us any further.
What, in your view, if you're looking at what is happening globally at the moment, what is the universe trying to teach?
Yeah, that's a really, really big question. I used to believe that we are, and I'm still hoping that we are this. Let me say it this way: we are teenagers. The world is a teenager. Is 16. Is rebelling. Does not want to grow up. Wants to be stupid about things. Wants to fight with his parents and the world and the church and everything else. And this is sort of the last upheaval. And then I hope we will mature and a new way of being will come out of that. I am not so sure that it will happen anymore, because, it could be that we will not survive our own way of being with one another. But I hope we do. In the meantime, I wrote a book recently. It's called 17 Decisions. I haven't done it in English yet, but it's called 17 Decisions of How to Live Now. And it is 17 ways of living they are not necessarily great interactions with the world, but they are to be true to yourself, to live in silence, to find your family. To me, a very big thing. Find your family. It's not your birth family, but find your family, like you and I are finding each other now. It's beautiful. It's lovely to share these ideas with you, and most likely with the people that are listening and viewing this podcast as well, and many other things. And that I feel if we could, for another one that's important to me, allow yourself to be called to truly participate in this world instead of sitting back and judging. And there's 17 like that. We'll have to do another podcast.
We do, and that's a
Yeah.
great closing statement, Ulrich.
Yeah, and I'm convinced if we live those 17 different things, it could be more, it could be less, but it's a way of living altogether. But if we live that way, we will live in hope and in love, and out of that will grow the possibility of change without going about and changing and rebelling and demonstrating. But if more of us could live out of hope and love, it could change the world. I believe very much in the critical mass, and it is the French mystic Teilhard de Chardin talked about the critical mass, and he came through it from physics, I think. The critical mass, or chemistry, the critical mass can be only 5%, and it will change everything. And so I sometimes think we need just a few more, and the whole thing will unfold and change. And I want to make sure that I am taking part, that I am doing my thing in this critical mass, and it might happen, but I don't know if it will happen. In my book too, it happens one person at a time. It does not happen. There's no mass conversion. I have almost a fear of bigger groups, even if it's the World Cup in soccer, because, if you throw in a bit of a bomb, the whole thing goes up in the air, right? And the good things can explode too and become very negative. That is why I think to live this life that I'm talking about, that adds to the critical mass is one person at a time. So I talk to one person at a time, and I convey and I mail with one person at a time, and I hope that it will be enough. And if it isn't enough, then that's it. I have done my part, and I find it interesting too that all I am called to do, and I'm not sure who's calling me, but all I'm called to do is my part, and I don't even want to look at whether this is successful. I just need to do my part, and you do your part, and whoever is listening does his or her part, and then it is out of our hands. But we need to do our part. That's very important.
We need to
Yeah.
do our part. And I really want to acknowledge you for the work you do and the message that you are spreading from one person to another. I think exactly what our world needs at this point in time.
Yeah.
And we are all, I think, called to do the same. And thank you so much for being on our show, Ulrich.
You're welcome.